It's the cozy season. Time to be merry, cherry and bright. Holiday season is the best, especially when we talk about all the good vibes, bright lights, cheerful faces and all the good food. It is the perfect time to either bake a perfect treat for your loved ones or cook up something so warm and fulfilling that every bite or sip of that food screams comfort and love. With the mere thought of the holiday season, we can almost smell those candles, taste those special meals, hear those familiar songs in our minds. With all these mental images stirring up in your head, you can probably smell some of those pictures too. Weird, right? Or best, you walk into a Bath and Body Works store, take a whiff of all the delicious, cozy and comforting aromas, which seem to so softly yet most impressionably hug you and your senses. Key contributor to this intense holiday euphoria are spices. Welcome. You're listening to TALRadio powered by Touch a Life Foundation and this is Foodology. I'm radio host Devansh and on this show I talk about the enormous world of a little word called food. In culinary arts, the world of spice refers to any dried part of a plant, other than leaves, used for seasoning and flavoring a recipe, but they're not used as a main ingredient. This is so intriguing because spices are so minute and used in small quantities, yet they make huge impacts. Eggnog, pies, cookies, spiced cakes, curries, stews, you name it. Even though most of these foods are available throughout the year, but what makes the holiday treats special are these spices and the spice mixes used to prepare them. In the previous episode, I talked about salt, another one of the culinary stars which changed the fate of the world, and spices are no different. To think that humans first found salt and used them to season their dishes, and they further ventured into the world and turned towards nature and found these incredible spices. Every country's cuisine has changed drastically since the Middle Ages. What many people today consider baking spices or dessert spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla, cardamom, cloves, etc. were used in savory cooking much more frequently in the Middle Ages than they are today. Back then, they were exotic and were a commodity only the rich and wealthy could afford. But what exactly is this categorization of baked spices, dessert spices, curry spices, etc.? I will explain it all. You just have to stay tuned. But first, when I say the word spices, it makes us think about all the warm holiday treats. And if you're familiar with Asian cuisines, you'd probably think about an array of spices which are used extravagantly. How and where do they come from? How did people use them in the past? Why were they so rare and expensive? How did people find out various combinations and why those exact combinations in particular are used till date and nothing else? Every spice has different characteristics. No spice is the same. And as a lone spice, just on its own, any spice could perhaps be unpleasant. In making spice mixes, people of the past were seeking to create different tastes that can only be achieved by mixing a variety of spices. If primitive people decided that individually they liked the taste of garlic, coriander or cinnamon, it was obvious that eventually at some point they would have tried to mix these spices together to see what they could come up. According to estimates, as far back as 50,000 BC, humans had used special qualities of aromatic and dried plants to help to flavor their food. The sweet-smelling spices and herbs probably attracted the primitive people, and out of curiosity, they started using it to flavor their foods. It is believed that since early man lived with nature, they accidentally discovered certain barks, leaves, nuts, which enhanced the taste or had some good aroma that caught their attention. They would have offered all these sorts of aromatic findings from nature to primitive gods and used these offerings to God in their food, as well as their medicine. The spice trade has been developed for a very long time. Even around 2000 BC, it was well established in the Middle East, with cinnamon and pepper being the highest in demand. In fact, China and India had and still have a medical system based entirely upon herbs and spices. Their early use was connected with magic, medicine, religion, tradition, and preservation. Christopher Columbus went westwards from Europe in 1492 to find a sea route to the land of spices, but eventually found the Americas. It was in 1497 that the Portuguese navigator Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route around the southern tip of Africa and eventually reaching India. On returning from his voyage, he brought back huge amounts of nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, ginger, and peppercorns. All the ancient civilizations like Greek, Romans, Portuguese, British, Arabs, they all invaded India with the same purpose: to profit from the vast natural resources and gain a monopoly over the spice trade. Spices were used for incense in churches and around other ceremonies, so they were very important to the church. They were thought to have medicinal properties, so they were prescribed by doctors and were taken to prevent and cure illnesses. As far as food is concerned, European cuisine used a lot more spices back then as compared to now. For almost 5,000 years, the Arab middlemen controlled the spice trade until European explorers discovered a sea route to India and other spice-producing countries in the east. Every country has their own mix of spices and a match for herbs and spices together or separately. And these are absolute essential in bringing the right essence to the various dishes of that country or region. Let me familiarize you with some of the most popular spice mixes from around the globe. Even though fall has long passed and it's the Christmas season, let's start and quickly get over with knowing pumpkin pie spice. It is popular with pumpkin spice lattes, pumpkin pies, pumpkin spice cinnamon rolls, and so much more. This spice mix just uses 4 ingredients. It can be used in so many ways. And yes, if you're not familiar with it, let me clear up that pumpkin spice mix does not contain actual pumpkins. Just a pinch of this spice mix can add fall flavor to anything from baked goods to roasted vegetables, dessert toppings, and more. Pumpkin spice or pumpkin pie spice is an aromatic blend of cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and ginger. Allspice is included sometimes. You can buy this spice blend already or can prepare at home and store in an airtight container. Baharat. Baharat is an aromatic spice blend which is native to the Middle East. Although it is hard to pinpoint the exact spices which are used in the mix, the most common ingredients include black peppercorns, allspice, cassia bark, coriander, cardamom, chili peppers, cinnamon, clove, and cumin. The amount of added spices influences the final aroma, which is typically smoky, sweet, and spicy. Baharat can be used as a seasoning for fish and meat and is commonly added to soups and stews, but it also works well as a marinade or a dry rub. Chaat masala. This is the king of Indian snacks. Chaat masala is a spice mixture that's used widely in Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi cuisine. It consists of coriander, asafoetida, red chili powder, tamarind powder, cumin, dry mango powder, black salt, and some varying ingredients. The origins are somewhat shrouded in mystery, but it is believed that this spice blend was invented in the 17th century by the kitchen staff of the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. Chinese 5-spice. One of the most popular spice mixes in the world of food, Chinese 5-spice powder may have originally been used medicinally to balance yin and yang. 5 is considered to be a number associated with healing properties. It has been integrated into Chinese and Taiwanese cuisine and also used in some of the Southeast Asian cuisines. A typical recipe for 5-spice powder calls for Szechuan pepper, ground cloves, fennel, cinnamon, and star anise. It can also include other ingredients. There are many regional differences throughout China. There's no typical way or set ingredients used to make Chinese 5-spice powder. There are many variations throughout China. Next we have is garam masala. This is quintessential for Indian cuisine. This spice mix is a blend of the most popular spices from the land of spices. There are no specific ingredients which are a compulsion to be used in garam masala. There are so many variations available throughout the country, though the North Indian version is the most well-known one. This classic spice mix is very easily available in stores, but it's best to make it at home. It is made from simple whole spices like cumin, coriander seeds, black pepper, cloves, green cardamoms, black cardamoms, nutmeg, cinnamon, mace, and you're good to go. Jerk seasoning. This famous spicy Caribbean seasoning blend combines allspice, cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, thyme, garlic, and super hot Scotch bonnet peppers. These spices are usually dry rubbed into the meat or combined with citrus juices and other liquids to create a marinade. Jerk seasoning is very well known for its use with chicken, but also commonly for seafood and other meats. Everything bagel seasoning. This seasoning is very popular throughout America. It is made from poppy seeds, onion flakes, garlic flakes, sesame seeds, and salt. According to one legend, a Queens man named David Gisson invented the everything bagel seasoning in 1980s. After he dumped all the spices at the bottom of his oven, he was cleaning onto the next day's bagel rather than throwing the spices out. However, a man named Seth Godin claims he was making everything bagel seasoning back in 1977. Well, nobody knows which story is true, but one thing's for sure, that everything bagel seasoning cut is a classic and is not only limited to bagels. It goes well on eggs as a dry rub, for chicken, or can be mixed into frying batter. Christmas spice mix. This episode would be incomplete if I did not mention the very special spice mix for this very special season. The festivities have begun, and this spice mix will help you create the perfect treats for you and your loved ones this festive season. It is a perfectly balanced wave of smells that overcome you when you open the oven and take out the cookies, cakes, or cupcakes. Not just baked treats, you can sprinkle this Christmas spice mix on hot tea, popcorn, or hot chocolate. And it's very easy to make at home. It is the embodiment of Christmas itself. There is no particular way or specific ingredients used to make this spice mix. In fact, many households have their own recipes, which makes the treats made in those houses with those spices super unique. A basic recipe of Christmas spice mix would include ground cinnamon, nutmeg, dried ginger powder, cloves, and allspice. Along with these, you can add any other spices of your preference that you feel like would go amazingly with the holiday spirit. You can use a teaspoon of this spice mix when baking cookies or cakes, and a few pinches can be sprinkled onto hot chocolate, cappuccino, lattes, or hot tea. Spice mixes have helped to create cultural identities to regions far beyond their homelands. Spice trade has shaped the world history as we know it today. Many wars were fought only to dominate the spice trade. Many sea voyages and explorations were done with an eye to explore and obtain spices in a cheaper way. Americas probably wouldn't have been discovered if it wasn't for the curiosity of Europeans to obtain spices. By the 19th century, spices started to be grown in other parts of the world. By understanding a handful of various spices, you can begin to understand the importance of spice mixes and how they came to be. All these complex spice mixes are a product of human intuitiveness. The answer is quite simple. We experiment in our cooking because we want to find out new and better tastes. Nothing signals the holiday season quite like spices. From cinnamon-topped apple cider to spiced breads, cakes, and black pepper rubbed across roasted turkey, all these scents and flavors instantly transport us to Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and more. The holiday season is the time of the year when friends, family, and colleagues all get together with food and drink to celebrate and spend time together, enriching their lives with wonderful memories and amazing food. Thank you so much for sticking around with me on this episode of Foodology. I had an incredible time talking to you. This is radio host Devansh, signing off. Hope you have a beautiful and a magical day ahead. See you soon.